You're posting, you're speaking, you're doing everything they told you would grow your business. So why is it not converting? Because visibility is only half the equation. Getting attention is easy. Turning that attention into clients takes strategy. VoiceLab was built to solve that. This is where front-end visibility meets back-end conversion. You learn how to get on stages, create your own platforms, and use podcasts, summits, and workshops to grow your audience and generate real leads. Then you learn what most people never build. A system that captures those leads, follows up, nurtures relationships, and turns interest into revenue. Email and newsletter strategy that actually gets responses. Workflows, not just more noise. Real connection that leads to real business. Inside VoiceLab, you are not guessing. You're learning the how. You're implementing in real time. You're building a business that works even when you are not constantly chasing attention. Because here's the truth. If you don't have visibility, no one knows you exist. If you don't have systems, nothing converts. VoiceLab gives you both, so you can stop performing for attention and start building momentum that pays you back. If you are ready to grow your authority, expand your reach, and finally turn visibility into income, join Colleen Stubbs and Nicole Borghi in the VoiceLab. Scan the QR code, join VoiceLab group on the school platform, and build the business that actually works.
Alrighty, good morning, good morning. You can all come back on camera, please. Make sure that you utilize the chat. Put all your information in there so people can reach out and connect with you. And let's get started. Let me check the waiting room, make sure. Nicole said she's having problems getting in still. So does anybody here know how to watch the waiting room? How to host these? Lil, can I make you a co-host? Thank you. Perfect. I think you received that. All righty. Good morning, and welcome to Monday Morning Business Foreplay. This is a strategic warm-up that makes sure that the rest of your week hits harder. I'm Colleen Stubbs. I'm the founder of Simplified CEO Systems, and I help midlife entrepreneurs build both a business and a life that they're madly passionate about. I do this by helping them to simplify their business, learning to automate and delegate so that they can build a business that works when they aren't. Today's guest is Donna Riccardo. We are diving into why your speaking may be influencing opportunities more than you realize, and not in the way that you think. Donna will be sharing with us why public speaking is truly an inside job, and choosing fewer words with more intention changes the way that clients see and follow you. Donna, welcome. I'm so grateful for you showing up today and being here to share your expertise with us.
Now mute. Okay, so thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yay. So we had a few little technical issues this morning. Of course, why would we not, right? But we made it. We're a little bit late starting, but that's okay. So talk to us a little bit and tell us, I know I listen to you a lot. I love every time that I get the opportunity to actually participate and listen to you share your expertise. I did participate last week with you, and of course, love that. Talk to us and tell us what brought you into this business, a little bit about you that makes you personable.
Let's see, what brought me into this was, oh, Nicole came. Here she is.
Hey.
Let's see. Hi. What brought me into this business? It was sort of a chain of events over time that started with my original career when I was in my 20s, being a hairdresser and wanting to teach and help other hairdressers with some advanced training that I had gotten that wasn't usual. So I wanted to be able to bring it to my peers. And after a few opportunities, some of them very high profile opportunities to be able to share in front of large groups of people, it didn't go well. And I had to be rescued. And so back at first, I didn't realize I needed to go learn this. And after a couple other things happened, I said to myself, you know what, I think I need to learn this. Because in the beauty business at that time, it's usually men with big personalities, and they they get in stage and they throw hair all around, they flirt with the audience, and it's just kind of who they are. Well, not any of that. And it also just never occurred to me, having only gone to cosmetology school, not any college or anything, didn't have exposure to speaking, never even occurred to me to learn it. Then until it went badly. And then finally did, because I wanted to do what I wanted to do and I couldn't. And so I had to learn. And, through learning and doing some different personal work and doing this inside job part and doing some training to speak, and I eventually became able to teach other hairdressers, and I went around salon to salon, and which is what I wanted to do. And I began to be able to do that. And then that led to becoming involved in a personal development company and became a trainer for them. And I did that for many, many years. And just fast forward, I didn't want to do either one of those things anymore. And I thought, what do I have? What have I dealt with throughout all of it? The speaking. And so I knew I could help people with that. And so that's how this all got born.
I love that, because I feel like I've been told many times that I was born with the gift of gab, right? And yet that doesn't make me a good public speaker. I had to learn that. But I love that you are confident in your failure, number one, that started and launched you on this journey, right? And then also number two, that you are really great at teaching people that good speakers, great speakers, are trained speakers, not necessarily
Absolutely.
born that way, because I think it gives us hope, especially those of us who were born with the gift of gab and thought we could just do this naturally, because it doesn't come naturally. And so understanding that the trials you went through getting there, and I've heard your story before about having to be saved, and I think that's such a neat story. And I think it's good and it's important for people to hear that story, because it makes you relatable. So many of the people who are feeling anxiety and their nervous system is not regulated. They're panicking when they have to speak. I've often said, like, I can speak, but I'll carry a little 5-gallon drum with me that I can stand on the floor and I can stand in case I pee my pants, so I don't make a mess on the floor. Because I just get way too nervous about it. So let's talk a little bit about why or how we can say less, but actually speak better.
Sure. What do you want to know about that?
I want you to tell us all the secrets to it.
All the
I think
secrets.
as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to say all the things. Like, I have all of this, I need to give you all the information, but I know that you teach us that we don't have to give.
Not only that, not only don't have to, shouldn't, because we learned what we learned and teach and offer and give to people over time. We can't possibly give whatever number of years we've had, or hours, or even if it's hours, right? You still can't give it to people in 30 to 45 minutes, an hour. So if we're speaking as an entrepreneur, I think that unless you're doing a paid training or some kind of thing like that, the best thing to do is to speak minimally, give your best stuff simply, and make it so that you are seen as the expert, right? Because you're giving some of your knowledge and expertise. You're seen as the expert, and then you can make a connection offer to your audience. So that's the best. And you give your best stuff, you give it simply, you just, go deep on something and be done with it. Get to the point.
Okay. So if we have, do you suggest we start with an outline or just literally one thing? Because I feel like in my business, I talk on simplifying, automating, and delegating. Is that too much for one conversation? Should it be just focusing on simplifying?
Depends on the length of the talk. Depends on the length of amount of time that you get to speak. If you're only getting 20 minutes, pick one. Pick one. If you're getting 45 or more, then you can have 3 talking points, because those are really 3 different talking points, but they also all have to point to one thing and showing you as the expert in all of it, because they're all part of a system, all of that.
Right. I love that. I love that. So and that makes sense to me because when I am speaking or presenting maybe a master class that's 30 minutes with 15 minutes for Q&A, I do that. I focus on just one of those things. But when I have 90 minutes, then it makes more sense to me to do a little bit less on each topic and do 75 minutes and then Q&A.
Exactly. And then to your question about an outline, I think it's important to prepare something because, you know, people come for their reasons. They come to get something, learn something new. They come to find out something they didn't already know, or, you know, they come for their reasons and, you know, be motivated, be inspired, whatever it is. And so we need to make sure that what we're saying is giving them something, that it's not just what we want to say, that's married with something that's going to provide value for the audience. So I like to write my stuff all out because then I know how long it's going to be, because practicing, and people generally insufficiently prepare and practice, and that makes people nervous. It's one of the things that makes people nervous. But even if you have an outline, you must still practice it because normally you're given a certain amount of time to speak. And it's really important to stay within that time, because if there's a structure to the meeting, or there's other speakers or whatever, you have to respect that, because it's an honor to get in front of other people's audiences. And you want to respect whatever the host has going on. And so you need to be prepared for that.
Right. And I would agree with that. Now, sometimes too, on the time thing, it's a time, like I did a standalone class on Saturday and finding a way to cut off the Q&A was solely put on me, which I didn't understand ahead of time that would be the case, because usually you have somebody that's in charge that does that. However, last minute, the person that was in charge had to get in a vehicle and drive somewhere with their family. And so they weren't able to curb that. But when I realized the time was going over, then I had to figure that out. And I felt bad because I had kind of not seen it right away. So I was a little bit over. So do you have any tips for that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you mean to cut it off?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Besides
well,
just
depending on, yeah, well, that really is one way to do it. You know, thank you so much for your participate. Like if you suddenly realize, like it sounds like what happened, you know, you suddenly realize, well, I have to end this now, and say, thank you so much for raising your hand, or whatever people did, or for your willingness to participate. We have to end now. Thank you for coming, and, you know, we'll see you next time, or whatever. If you have a little bit of time, you might say, I can take one more quick question. Some people like to say, don't just say one, because that leaves people feeling, I don't know, weird. You say, take two more quick questions, but you never know, and they're not always quick. So I don't think there's anything wrong with saying one more, but you do have to tell people exactly what you want from them. So if anyone has just a quick question, we only have 1-2 minutes left, or whatever you have left, then you can, you know, tell them exactly what you want from them.
I like that. And I feel like it also leaves the door open so that people can reach out to you in other ways to get the answers to their questions, right? And so if you're saying, I have time for one more question, as long as it's, you know, a minute or two. And other than that, please reach out through my link. I'm happy to hop on a call with you. Then I think that doesn't leave them feeling jilted.
Absolutely. And it's the same thing when you're in person. It's the same thing when you're in person. You don't, honestly, this is also the training that I received, and I think it served me well. And I teach my clients this, is don't take questions from the front of the room. Tell them in the beginning that you're going to, please don't, I'm not going to take questions. Please hold your questions to the end. I'll tell you how to get more later. And at the end, you're making them an offer, some kind of connection, a way for them to get with you, come to the back of the room. But you don't want to have anyone derail what you've just spent time doing, setting yourself up as the expert and authority, and have somebody ask a silly question or something you might not know. Or sometimes people just want to look like they're the expert when you're the one in front, and people do all kinds of weird people things. So you just have that, take it to the back of the room. It's a great opportunity. If they're serious, they will book time with you.
You know what? I love that you said that. And I think it's a little bit controversial, but what a great place to have this conversation. So I was on a summit that it was actually my summit that I paid Nicole to host. And had a speaker come in with a question and started sharing how she sells Go High Level. That was very awkward. Yeah. And I didn't play it well then. I just kind of skipped over it and did my thing. But afterwards I whooshed. But that's always interesting that people do that. It's almost as if they don't want to pay to get on stage or pay to put or even put the effort in. They just want to piggyback, for lack of better words. But what's the best way to shut down the piggybackers?
Well, I'd say have a conversation in the beginning, if you can, about your expectations of their participation, if it's a planned thing. That, if that's not possible, because that's not how it went, you might say, you have to, it's okay to interrupt, especially if they're going on and on. It's okay to interrupt, but you just have to do it respectfully. And then there's always the thing that we learn in improv, yes, and. So you validate, say, thank you so much for sharing. That's an interesting perspective. Appreciate that. I'm sure our listeners, will take something away from that and then go move on. So you validate and carry on. So yes, and.
Okay. So, and that is how you politely interrupt, because we did have that conversation ahead of time and we had very strategic guidelines for what could be spoken about from stage, which I guess doesn't cover interruptions, right?
It should.
It should. That's what I thought too. But I go back to the thing where I don't want to interrupt somebody and I don't want to be rude either. Even when somebody else is rude or mean, I don't want to be that person. So that was a very awkward situation for me. So tell me
Can I
this.
add something to that, Colleen? Can I add
Yeah.
something to that? So here's the thing. So that I get that. I get that. I mean, I think a lot of people feel like that. But what you're noticing, everyone is noticing. So you're actually doing everyone a favor by interrupting, even though it feels uncomfortable to you.
That's a good point of view. It's a good point of view. And I don't, so how, I guess outside of the, bye Kathy, thank you for joining us. Outside of the validate and redirect, is there another professional cutoff example you can give us? A professional interruption that you can give us. Another way to professionally interrupt them and say, moving on.
Besides like squirting them with water or something.
Right, like they're a cat. We'll just spray them.
Like they're a cat. I have cats. Another professional interruption. Hook them. Let me think. I think asking them a question is a good way too.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I have kind of gone to, thank you for that. And so moving on and make sure I'm pointed in it, but I'm not comfortable in it. That's a me problem for sure. All right. So public speaking is an inside job. Tell us how to get that job done before we get on stage.
Oh, that is a function of preparation. A lot of it. But it's also like, so usually when people are nervous, there's something going on, right? A lot of times, I don't know, there's a lot of things that could be going on. A lot of times it's, usually it's somebody's in their head about whatever it is. Like they're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about like, are they going to like me? Are they going to judge me? They will, by the way. Everybody judges everybody. They may or may not like you. Nothing we can do about any of that, right? But so you have to focus on your message. What's important to your, yes, Nicole, we all have judgments. They do it, we do it. And you have to focus on your message and what is important to the audience. And I think that helps a lot. They have to keep noticing and redirecting what you're saying, what you're thinking even, and bring it back. Like, things, I don't know, I have these silly examples, like you're speaking in person, let's say, and, some guy in the front row, he's like making faces and being weird. And a lot of speakers would tend to think, oh, like he doesn't like me, or, something, they make it about themselves. Well, maybe his breakfast burrito didn't agree with him, right? Or maybe, some lady over there is, falling asleep. She's falling asleep in your face. Or so it seems, because that's what you make it mean. You make it mean about yourself. And that's what we tend to do. But it's never about ourselves, any of that. And I'll tell you when it is. But it's not about ourselves. Maybe that one was up late night with a sick kid, and yet she still got up and came to hear you speak, right? We don't know what's going on with people. However, if half the room, if like people are on their phone and people are leaving the room and people are like zoning out, that is you, but it's still not personal to you. It's how you are being received by the audience. It's your attention came off of them. You checked out, right? Because if we check out, if we go unpresent, the audience will get unpresent, right? They won't be able to connect if we are in our heads, or we are checked out, or we are concerned about ourselves, or all of that noise in our heads, the way we talk to ourselves, it's not our friend, then the audience will check out.
That's interesting because I have seen that. And I also had somebody say to me when they were speaking, and I just turned my camera off to have a bite of lunch. It was in an all-day event, so I didn't feel bad for doing that. I still wanted to stay present, but not have you watch me eat. And as soon as I turned my camera off, the speaker said, "Oh, Colleen, don't turn your camera off. You were my focus person." I know.
Yeah.
And my lunch got cold. So it's, I can see that, but I also think that a lot of that is confidence in your ability to deliver, which as goes right back to great speakers or trained speakers, not born speakers. And so give us a couple training tips, just a few things that we can take away that we can change this week for our presentation that's next week.
Yeah, well, if it's something like that, then I'd say it depends on the expectations of the audience, right? So I think it's always a good idea to let your audience know what to expect. Now, this varies depending on how well you know the people in front of you. If you really don't know them very well, you maybe just know their name, like maybe this person knew you, I don't know the exact circumstances, then, then it would be a good idea to let them know, hey, I might call you out if you know them. But if you don't, I don't think that's a good way to go, because then you don't know how the person's going to react. You don't know what's going to happen. And then it all reflects back on the leader. So I think tip is number one, respect the people in front of you, and, and make sure you know your audience. You have to know your audience. So that is super important, because if you know who they are, and like even in a broad sense, if you know who they are, then you know how you can interact with them, you know what you can expect from them, you know what you can ask from them. So, and I think the best we can do is ask, right? That's all we can do. We can't make people do anything. So for speaking now, you have something coming up now. If you're generally speaking in person, I will say most people need to speak slower than they want to and louder than they think they need to. And if you are speaking, you want to make sure that your energy, especially, and your voice reaches the furthest away person from you. And if you are offered a microphone, always take it. I've seen, right, don't mumble. Absolutely don't mumble. That happens more on Zoom because people are so close and they feel like they're having this conversation with the people right in front of them. But absolutely don't mumble. And right up there with that is trailing off your sentences, like maybe you're talking and then the end of the sentence goes down like this. That is really super common. Or going up at the end of sentences. More women tend to do that. But make sure your voice and your energy reaches the furthest away person from you. Take the microphone if you're offered. I've heard many times people get offered a microphone and they say, no, my voice is loud enough. Well, no. It may be, but no, because you've got a room full of people and your voice and your energy, and you don't want to shout at people. Your voice and your energy needs to reach everyone easily. Like we need to come in our energy, in our voice, in our words, in everything we have, because what we speak about, what we do is for them. It's always for the audience. And we need to bring us, all of us, to the audience. We can't expect them to work to do it. I remember being in something, I happened to be sitting near the front so I could hear. It was a fairly large room, and people couldn't really hear her very well. And she said, well, if you can't really hear me, she said, move forward, move up. No, it's never, ever the audience's job to come to the speaker. So that's two. Make sure you go speak louder, slower. You bring all of you to the speaker, to the audience. And I think the third thing is to make sure you're providing value. That you don't want to talk about yourself, talk about how great you are, how wonderful your business is, how much you can help people, blah, blah, blah. No one cares, right? You need to give them value, have them learn something new, useful, different. And yes, what's in it for me, right? The with them. So yes, you want to bring it to them. That's why they're there. They came for themselves. So make sure you're providing them value and not, blowing your own horn.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that you touched on respect for the audience. And what I think of with that is number one, always assume that your audience is doing the best they can. It's the same every single day that you wake up. You need to assume that you're going to give the best that you have to the world, and the world is giving the best that it has to you. And that especially goes with your audience when you're speaking. You don't know what anybody's been through, what they did to get there, or where they're at, where they're going from there. And so just giving them the respect to assume that they're doing the best they can. And then also, all of these I feel like fall under respect. Not asking someone to move, but absolutely take the mic. That's like the breath mint. If somebody hands you a breath mint, don't say no, thank you. Take it. For somebody else's benefit, you may need that. And so you may need the mic. The person in the back can't hear you, or maybe they know that their hearing impaired equipment isn't working correctly. And so somebody needs to hear you a little bit louder, whatever that is. It's a respect thing. Take the mic. And then, of course, the value also comes back to respect. Let's not waste each other's time. Yeah, we all have 24 hours a day, the same 24 hours. And if somebody is courteous enough to cut out some of that for you, you need to be delivering value. Absolutely. So I think respect is
Absolutely.
the name of the game here.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the power in the pause.
Oh, that's a good one. Power in the pause. So sometimes people think, especially ones that don't particularly prepare and they just want to speak off the cuff, and people will say to me, I do my best when I'm speaking off the cuff. I disagree. No one wants to hear your stream of consciousness coming out of your mouth. They came for, again, their reasons, right? So it's important to, especially if we're preparing, we want to, right, rambling, no rambling, ramble free zone. We want to make sure we take a breath, we pause, we slow down. It does a few things. It probably has a whole list of things, but we'll just touch on a few. One, it gives the speaker a moment to catch your breath. The audience knows we need to breathe. That's like this, like very simply, right? We can catch our breath. Take a moment to gather our thoughts. It also helps to bring the audience back. Let's say you do notice they're fading away, and hopefully you notice you've gone away. What can you do to come back? Connect back to yourself. Take a moment. Stop talking. Nothing bad will happen, I promise. And let the audience come back. It's good for emphasis. It's good for a lot of different things. So it's really important, and it helps people stay with us. I'm assuming if you're speaking, you want people to listen and stay with you. So it helps people to stay with us. And even if you notice they're leaving, you might pause, and next thing you know, why did she stop talking? And you've got everybody's attention again.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that that's a huge communication tool. I find that I use that with my grandkids even. If we're doing something and I'm talking, they zone out. And so when you stop and you just look at them and wait, they come back to you. So Lil says you have to fill the pause though.
I don't know about that. Pause is like silence. You have to be allow
Hey, Lil, unmute yourself so we can have this
allow
conversation.
silence. Allow silence.
That's not what I mean. What I mean is that when you pause in acting as well, and I teach this all day long, you can't just stop. Okay? You need to fill it with yourself, right? So that means that when you pause, you have to find a way to make people realize that there's something that's going to come next.
Mm.
Does that make sense? So when my actors do pausing, it's the same thing in acting as it is in speaking. It's absolutely no different. When you pause, it's a matter of how your body moves, or maybe you look down in a certain direction, like you know they're coming to something else is coming. You fill it with you. And if you just stand there and stop, the most important thing you're ever going to say is the thing you say after you pause. That's the whole point of it, right? You stop so that they, because then the next thing you're going to say is the most important thing in that moment, is section by section, moment by moment. The shit you just spew out, nobody cares about. When you stop, you might take a breath, you might look at someone, you might move your hands, you might do something, but you don't just stop. That's what I mean by filling it with something. You have to fill the space, right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of times the powerful thing to do in that moment is the eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be just with one person.
Could be looking around
Well,
the
then it's
room.
intentional.
You can go from person to person. So intentionally filling the spot,
Right.
or maybe it's even just
Yeah, there you go. Right.
and continuing,
Or
right?
grabbing the
I can't
podium or
see
whatever.
you worth a bat, but who cares? We'll stick those bad boys back on. But
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that that's very powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
And the most
intentional is
important
what I'm
thing I think
hearing.
my acting
Mm-hmm.
teachers have always taught me too about all of that is people do this one thing, well, two things. They rock all the time. Don't rock. They don't put your be comfortable in your hands. It's hard. Don't rock, and walk, then talk, talk, then walk. Don't do a lot of walking and talking unless it's a purposeful thing. That's a big mistake. People pace the whole time they talk. I can't. I feel like I'm on a cruise ship. I'm sick to my stomach.
Well,
When people walk and walk, talk and walk and talk and walk, that's a huge problem. And that part of that is pausing. So I think it'll make sense.
I
But
think part of
anyway,
that is my mother would say is poise. Ladies don't fidget.
You're
And
right.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to tell my kids, go change your clothes. And they're like, why? I love this. I'm like, because you're freaking not comfortable. You're doing all this. So go get fixed, and then come back. But it's a poison. It's a powerful thing when you can present yourself confidently that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And it all
also,
comes down to intentionality, right? Even all of it, like all of our gestures, they need to go with what we're saying. If we're pausing, there has to be a reason. It's all intentional. And that all comes back to the inside job, because we have to be not only aware of ourselves, but aware of the people in front of us and how it's what we're saying and doing is impacting them.
I feel like when you walk and talk, you're playing like speaker roulette, right? Because sometimes the mic works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you turn a little bit, sometimes you turn a little bit. It's just you have no idea if it's going to be a win or lose, and you stacked your cards against you by walking and talking. Like walk, stop, talk. That makes perfect sense to me. And even positioning yourself when you stop. Make sure that you make that
Absolutely.
full turn back to your audience
Always to the audience.
so that
Unless
you're
there's some reason
presenting
that you are
correctly.
turning side or back, then yes, always to the audience.
Right. All right. So you say that people follow you more easily when your answer is clear instead of crowded.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
So by clear, you mean concise?
Concise, succinct, answer the question you've been given. No rambling. Right,
No
Nicole?
fluff,
No rambling.
no fluff, and no rambling. Okay.
And no fluff. That's why I like to write it out. I like to write mine out in a large font with lots of white space and bullet points, so I don't have a sea of words, so that when I'm working with it, I can have just the facts. Just so when I'm working with it, I can easily see, I can glance, I can practice, I can become familiar with my material. And then I can also easily see if it's, spaced out, large font like that, bullet points, one sentence per bullet, then I can easily see what the fluff is and I can take it out.
Okay. So as an amateur, very amateur speaker, I would say that I love the bullet points because when I get lost in my word salad
Mm-hmm.
and I need to practice the pause and my
Mm-hmm.
mind is going, holy shit, my brain can look at the one bullet and
Yep.
it should be powerful enough to follow the pause.
Yep. Yep. I even
And to
put pause
bring
in
everything
there.
back.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the rip us back out of the word salad, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why we
Yeah.
get in that.
Yeah. Because it
Okay,
is. It's a C. It's a salad, right?
it is.
I use, yeah, 32. What do I use? I use one sentence and 32 fun. I think I use 14 throughout. 14 Arial, bullet points, double space.
Nice, nice. All righty. So before we wrap up, I've got a few questions to ask you. Hot seat time. Everybody ready for this? All right. First question. What is the one thing everyone in your industry is doing that you think is complete bullshit? And why are they still doing it?
Oh my goodness. What are they doing? They are, oh, let's see. I was thinking you were going to ask something else. So, what are they still doing? They're still, I think still, especially the more the old timers, they're still pontificating. I think they haven't really changed with the times to realize that people want more interaction, that we have attention span less than a goldfish. So I hear goldfish being 7 seconds, ours being about 3. I don't know. This is what they say. You know, I'm in the National Speakers Association. This is something that's been going around. They are bored. They are bored. They're restless. They don't have good attention span. Things are moving so quickly all around them all the time. They expect real life and their speakers to also move quickly with them. They need engagement. And so speakers that are still just talking, losing their audiences.
Well, that makes me feel much better about life because I feel like I don't sit still very well. And so I'm an engaging speaker for sure, which I think keeps people on track, but also I like to give out a PDF or something that we're working with so that
Yep.
they have something in hand also because for me, like I can't sit and watch a movie. I can sit and watch a movie and read a book at the same time, or sit and watch a movie and do book work, or sit and watch a movie and play a game at the same time, but I can't just sit and watch a movie. So I feel like for my audience, I want them to have optional things they can be doing. Maybe they can go back and forth between the two as well, as it is something that they have as a reminder later to what I spoke about. Okay,
Yes.
and then Nicole says she falls asleep
And you're
during
not alone. And you're not alone falling asleep. I'll read the news and watch a movie, but yeah, falling asleep for sure. But hopefully your audience isn't falling asleep. That's something to look at if they are. But keeping them involved, engaged, in action, thinking, participating with each other, writing stuff down, asking for responses, just changing it up very regularly. It's said like every 7 to 8 minutes, do something different, and making sure that they have something to do all the time.
Yes, I would agree with all of that. All righty, let's get on to our next question. What's a mistake you made, Donna, that cost serious money or time that you kept making anyways because you were too proud or too scared to admit that it wasn't working?
Well, it's definitely the scared thing. And it was not preparing. I mean, I really didn't even know. I didn't in the beginning, I didn't even really know that was something that I needed to do because again, I was never in any kind of environment where I had to do that. Just my brain just simply didn't make the connections that I needed to prepare. And I kept doing that over and over until I lost a really great job opportunity, something I worked hard for a number of years, finally got it. And I thought these people were going to train me and they didn't. And they threw me in, I froze, no words coming out, and I lost that opportunity. They never spoke to me about it again. And I never got another opportunity to do what they had done, is send me out to their other salons. But yeah, so not preparing.
Okay, so let's talk about the preparation for a minute because I feel like some speakers don't, or some people who wish that they or want to speak don't because they feel like the prep work is too much. So, you're a seasoned speaker. When you started, how long did your prep time take? And now, how long does your prep time take now that you've done it multiple times?
It's probably similar. I think that I hate it. I don't know anybody that likes it. I'd rather, I'm just thinking of Lil, I'd rather prepare for a play than prepare my speech or write my speech or practice my speech or something that I put together. And it just it's probably a little bit less if it depends if it's something I already have that I'm just, using, because I highly recommend having a signature talk as an entrepreneur, one talk that you give to different audiences of your same ideal client, then it takes less time because I'm familiar with it, right? But I still do it. I don't just like, oh, I've done this 100 times, I can just do it. I still prepare. So it takes a lot less time. But in the beginning, it takes longer because there's, the thinking of it, the writing of it, the putting it together, having it organized. Of course, now we have ChatGPT and all that to help us do some of those things, but you can't just rely on that. It still has to be our voice, our expression, and it still has to be our message and express the way we want it to be expressed in a way that lands for the audience. And all that, getting in front of real people, practicing what you have to say, making sure your timing comes in. And if you get in front of real people, do it as often as you can. I promise they'll still love you afterwards. And it's again back to, it's important to stay within your time. And if you don't prepare and practice that, then you won't know. You can't assume. And you don't want to run out of time, especially if you're going to make an offer. You don't want to rush that.
So walk us through the prep steps.
Well, if you're starting from scratch, you want to think about, what do I start with the end in mind? What do I want to leave my audience with? You start with the end in mind. What is my message? What am I want to leave them with? And I don't mean leaving them with your offer. Like, you do want to leave them with that, but I mean, what do you want to leave them with as your message, like their takeaway? So starting with the end in mind, and then depending on how long your talk time is, 10, 20, 30, 45, 60, 90, whatever it is, make sure you know that. And then I like to write it out. I just like to write it out. It helps me organize my thoughts. It helps me make sure it makes sense. It helps me see that there's a flow to what I want to say. And then, once I get it where I want it, I'll, with the bullet points and the spacing. And if I do it like the way I mentioned a minute ago, if I do it, this just evolved out of something I did. 14 font, Arial, double space. It's the approximate, unless you have pauses or engagement or interactions in there, if you're just talking, about a page a minute, done like that. Just something that evolved when I had to give these 3-minute talks every week for this one group I was in. So writing it out, simple words, simple sentences, 8th grade language, not to insult people, but not to lose them, right? Because especially these days, you have people that are all different languages, and it's not always ours, and all different abilities, and we have all different kinds of things in front of us. And so keeping it simple makes it easy for people to stay with us and to follow along with what we have to say. So making sure your message is simple, practicing with real people, and doing it over and over until you can do it. Sometimes I always also say, some will teach, like, don't use the notes, never use notes. Well, if that's what's between somebody who's maybe scared but wants to speak and speaking, use the darn notes. I mean, really, it's not the end of the world. And if it's going to help somebody gain confidence and bridge that gap, use the darn notes. But you still have to know the material well enough that if you have them, maybe they're like a little blankie, right? And you're just, like, you don't grab them like you would your blankie, but your glance. that's your blankie grab. You can know it well enough that you can just glance, and helps you stay on track. And if you have slides, they're not for you. They're not for them to read. Their pictures are best. If you can do a presentation with just pictures, that's your best bet. But use something to help you stay on track, and practice all of that with real people as much as you can till you feel like, and this could be different for different people, right? Till you feel like you can give it in the amount of time you're given, have your points land and make sense with people, and also keep it simple and stay in your time frame.
Okay. I love that. One of the things that I do with my notes is I color them as well. So I'll have different colored text for different things. And it's easier for me to find my spot again if I need to look back at them. Alrighty. So if you could give one piece of advice to someone in your industry, but it would go completely against the grain, what would it be, and why is it worth the backlash?
Somebody in the industry. Oh, let me think about this for a second. What don't they want to hear? They don't want to hear that they need to talk less. speakers love to talk. They love to speak. Don't ever give a speaker a microphone. You can help it. Unless it's like planned or so, you know, like just don't give them the floor. Like actors. they, you know, yeah, they need to say less.
I like that. I love that. And actually, I think that it just falls right in line with just keeping things simple. I know so many people feel like to build a business, it has to be very complicated, has to have all these different things and ins and outs, and you have to come at it 5 different ways. I'm like, no, you don't. Just keep it simple. Keep it so simple so it's easy to digest and easy to resonate with people so that they can grasp it and keep going, which is what we want.
It's
Alrighty,
easier for us too.
yes. Does anybody have any questions before we close? Carl does, of course. Come on out, Carl.
Well,
Unmute yourself.
Well, of course I do.
You do.
First of all, Donna, I spent some time on your website last night, and I recommend everybody go there because she's got 10 video tips that are really good. Some of it she covered today, but really a good refresher. So I like your website. Lil was talking about, acting being very similar, and I agree with her 100%, except you're not really acting, but you are performing. And, so you're on. So I've seen a lot of times where people are just not that well prepared. And so you don't believe them as much as you would, because that comes across in both body language and facial expression. And as far as respecting the audience, I agree that you've got to respect the audience. But I used to have a friend, his name was Jim Stafford. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was a comedian and he was great. He's retired now. But anyway, I got to know him quite well here in the Tampa Bay area. And it was kind of like how he handled hecklers, because you may not have a heckler, but you might have somebody that's being disrespectful to you. And I think this is your stage. I think you have the right to address that if you have somebody that's not being nice. And how he always answered was what my grandmother taught me. He would just look at him and say, well, bless your heart. And there would be nothing else said. Okay. And he would just move on from there, because there's no response to that. And no reason to get into a confrontation with somebody, because you're going to lose every time, because the audience doesn't like that, in my opinion. But it's okay to disagree, but not be disagreeable. You know what I mean? So I kind of agree with what you were saying there, but I think you always have to respect the audience. But I haven't done a lot of public speaking. I've maybe done 30 or 40, events where I've spoken in person. And, but I've always felt like I needed to be so confident in what I'm talking about that all I need is bullet points, and I don't need to go into word salad. I don't need to go real long, get in, get out, and go to the next point. And so I kind of like what you're saying there too, because people can get very wordy. I mean, and they just kind of overdo it. And, you can get up, go to the restroom and come back and they're still talking about the same thing, and I think sometimes that can happen. So, but anyway, that's all I wanted. More of a comment than anything else, but, check out our website.
Will do. Thank you for joining us, Lil. I will say I love that, Carl, and I'm going to add that bless your heart to my repertoire.
I love that.
Ways to redirect during ignorant people's interruptions, I guess. All righty. So this has been Monday Morning Business Foreplay. And if today's conversation has helped you to see something differently, to make one clearer decision, or to take a meaningful step forward, then this hour has done exactly what it was supposed to do, because clarity creates momentum, and momentum beats motivation every time. Huge thank you, Donna. Thank you for sharing your experience, your perspective, all of your expertise with us today. And if you find this conversation valuable, please share it. Invite people to join us next week, and we will see you all next week. Found it. You know what? My record button is no longer at the top bar where it's supposed to be.
That's a Zoom thing. They just changed it.
It was up there when I